Isn't it interesting that I was thinking about this the other day, and this is kind of weird to say, but I'll say it because I worked through it, that when we were 5 years old, we thought that we could be a superhero. You could be Batman or Superman or Spider-Man.
Right.
And that every man at some point probably in their life, or woman, it doesn't matter, Wonder Woman, you can be any of this stuff. You went from thinking that you could be a superhero to that you can't make $100,000 a year. So what happened in between right there?
Hey everybody, I'm Eric Oberembt, and you're listening to Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. We talk about real shit, what's on our minds, and don't give a fuck if it makes you feel a little uncomfortable. So sit back, strap in, and get ready for some real shit.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Be Authentic or Get the Fuck Out. I'm your host, Eric Oberembt. I'm back with another episode at RoofCon 5. This episode is going to be extremely special because it's one of the first times, if not maybe the first, that I get to interview somebody that has already interviewed me. I want to introduce my guest and then we'll get right into it. Patrick Carr. Patrick, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
I'm super excited to have a conversation with you.
Thank you.
I appreciated you having me on. Was it last year? Here?
Last year. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. We had a really fun conversation.
Yeah.
I gave you some shit because we couldn't be on YouTube.
Yeah.
With yours.
We had to go straight over Rumble.
This will be on YouTube.
We had to go to Rumble.
Yep, this will be on YouTube with all the fucks and shits and everything else that we throw out. But I have watched you from afar, and I love what you put out. I love your production value, and I can tell that you genuinely are passionate about what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
We don't go a lot into work in this show, but do give everybody a little 3-minute on what you do and kind of why you're trying to help people.
I appreciate it. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. You've had a lot of amazing guests on this show.
Thank you.
And it keeps getting better.
Thank you.
So the fact that I'm able to hopefully bring some value and tell your guests a little bit something about what I do, I appreciate that opportunity. Blue Collar Media Group, founded it 2.5 years ago. The idea was to produce professional content for contractors, a vertical that oftentimes doesn't think about professional content, and to put people in front of a camera and to make them look like rock stars. And that's what we're passionate about doing. I wanted to take the cell phones out of the hands as much as we could and to put professional videographers and scripts with contractors and say, man, let's show what you do in a real special way. And that's what we're trying to do across the country right now.
Love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. That is definitely something that is missing. And I loved what you said about getting the cell phones out of their hands, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what everything turned into. It's like, well, I'm up on a roof, guys. Fucking, like, look at me. And nobody gives a fuck.
No one.
I don't think.
Well, let's piggyback on that a little bit. If you're doing what everybody else is doing, and then, so many times I'd sit in front of roofers on my podcast and they'd say, we're doing things different in my company.
How?
What exactly is different about what you're doing? You're on top of a roof, we do this, look at our great GAF product or our great certainty, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. And you're just saying, yeah, we got a great roof, let's do a before and after on the drone. Cool. For me, that's just more noise.
Yep.
And so if you consistently just produce noise, no one's going to pay attention to you. One of the things about your podcast, it's the title, it's the demeanor, it's how people feel when they watch it. It invokes an emotion in them. And I think that you've got to do that with your content. You do it with this show, you do it with how you ask questions and how you interact with your audience. Roofers need to do that with their content.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's missing right now.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to do it with their content.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to do it with their lives because it's about being intentional about what it is that you're trying to accomplish, right? And not just doing something and going through the motions because you think you're supposed to. Because I think that that's what a lot of people think they're doing. They're like, well, like you said, everybody else is doing it, right? Why shouldn't I guess I should too, get the phone out, but they're not actually being intentional about what it is that they're trying to accomplish. They think that if they just do it, something will change, right? But it goes back to the definition of insanity, right? I'm going to keep doing the same fucking thing over and over again, and I think something's going to be different.
I got to ask you this. I tend to want to ask questions, so forgive me, because I want to ask you this. I see when you take your phone out, there are times when you'll jump on a live, or it looks like a live, and I'll maybe see it afterwards. You'll say something that could be, let's say, controversial, okay? How do you balance you as a personal brand with your company and the employees that work with you. There are times where I've wanted to get on camera and say some things politically or say some things about an individual or something I think. Do you ever do you think, okay, it's not just me, I've got these people that work with me. How do you balance that? Because you seem to have done it, but what's your head?
I don't balance it. I made a decision when I started this show, actually. It's actually a fucking great question. Because when I started this show, I had to have a conversation with myself. I had to ask myself that question of, are you going to balance it? And are you going to be something different when you're on camera because you're afraid of what the consequences might be with clients or employees or people or whoever, right? Here's what I decided. I decided that I only want to work with people that are attracted to me.
Okay.
So if you're not my client and you're easily offended, or if you're easily offended, you're not my client. Best Damn Roofer was here, right? And I know it's a joke and, he's a fucking character and everything else, right? But he did the whole spiel about charging liberals 25% more on all their roofs, right?
Yep.
He might actually fucking do that. He is the kind of guy that he might actually fucking charge liberals 25% more. Here's why. He knows they're not his fucking client. I'm okay knowing that I'm losing people that weren't supposed to be around me anyway, because they're generally the people that suck all your fucking energy regardless. So I want to be surrounded by the people that are attracted to who I am authentically and unapologetically for who I am.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a follow-up to that, because I think if someone was to watch this who knows me would want me to ask this. I see people when we go out and we are filming them, they'll be talking like this, like I am right now to you, Eric. The red light will go on and they go, and let me tell you what, Patrick Carr Roofing, we are all about 25 years in business and we're going to help you out today.
Yeah.
And I'm whoa, who is this person?
Yeah, what happened?
What happened to this guy?
Yeah.
I'm interested to know this, man. You do a very good job of keeping a certain intensity about you, whether this camera is on or the camera is off. For those who have not met you, there's a real intensity to who you are. Do you ever think about, okay, I guess probably no now, you made this deal with yourself, being somebody like, hey, let me take a little step back. I'm going to be a little more reserved on this one, or I'm going to be a little bit more outgoing on this one. I guess my question is, how do you fight against being somebody different on camera versus just being who you are? I think there's somebody asked me today, I'm sorry this question wasn't planned, so I'm probably stumbling my way through it, everybody. But if you're not a funny person, should you be funny?
No.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, you absolutely fucking should not.
Yeah.
Right? Because we all know the guy that I always tell this story where, when I was young and I'd go to a bar, I could walk up to people, I could walk up to a woman and make a very uncouth joke to grab their attention, right? And to start talking to them. And everybody would laugh and find it funny. Mm-hmm. And my buddy would do the exact same fucking thing and get slapped in the face. Yeah. Why? Because it wasn't authentic to who he was and he was trying too goddamn hard. People need to stop trying so goddamn hard to be something that they're not. Yeah. But now to answer your question though, I still am going to match the intensity of the person that I'm speaking to. Yeah. So if I'm with somebody that is very subdued and calm and, a different demeanor, I'm not going to be like, hey, what are you I'm not going to get up in their shit and, be loud and whatever. I'm going to match where they're at. Sure. Because that's going to make them comfortable to share. Because my ultimate goal isn't to offend or be loud or anything like that. It's to connect with other people, right? It's something I'm going to talk about in my breakout on Saturday. It's something that I talk about in the cult culture movement, in the coaching program that we started, in the mastermind. All I've ever wanted to do is learn how to connect with people. It's why I drank and used drugs for so long, because I never felt like I belonged anywhere. And so I felt like I had to do those things so that I could be an extrovert, if you will, because naturally I am not. I am naturally an introvert.
Interesting.
100%. I'm a trained extrovert, right? I recharge by being alone.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. When I get done speaking on stage or doing these podcasts or whatever it is, I have to like go off to the side, pop in a Zen for all your nicotine needs. I'm trying to get Zen to sponsor us.
Get it.
I have to do that and go like be alone with myself and my thoughts and breathe and do some stuff. That'll recharge me so I can come back out. Right? But I'm always going to match who I'm with because my goal is, again, not noise. Right? We talked about it. Lee and Dimitri. Noise. Right? I'm not trying to make noise. I'm trying to make connections with other humans. Now, however I do that, I'm going to do it so that I can influence you in a certain way so that we make that connection, right? And persuade and influence and do all the things that we try to do in sales. It's the same thing with people. So if I want to lead you down a path, I can't fucking shove you down the path. I have to lightly guide you down the path. So that's my goal with everything, right? And the other thing I'd like to piggyback off of that is, I talked about it in a previous podcast, but is the role that confidence plays in what we do, right? Because I have lived a very, very large part of my life with very low self-confidence and very, what's the word? Fear of being judged.
Okay.
Right? And that's something that I think that others can relate to, because I have a whole journey and a story that got me to the person that I am today that maybe exudes that confidence, but I still sit behind this fucking screen with this giant ass fucking picture of me up on the wall and going, why the fuck do I have a giant picture of me up on a wall? Who the fuck am I? Right? Have you ever dealt with anything like that?
Of course I have. And, I've got the little picture up on mine as well. And I think that a lot of people, whether you're talking about a Steve Jobs or an Ed Milet, and Andy Friselis, the guys like that, Ed Milet talks about all the time, worth, $700 million or something like that, that he feels like, hey, I'm still got a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And I think that in some ways, if you've got a little bit of that you're doing something right in life. And I'll explain this. I told this to a client the other day because they felt like, hey, I'm not natural in front of a camera. The only time you have imposter syndrome is when you're doing something that takes you out of your comfort zone. No one has imposter syndrome when they're comfortable.
Right.
And so it means that you're trying to expand and grow into an area that you're not comfortable in.
Sure.
And I think that's a sign that you're doing something right, that you're entering into an area that you're like, I don't know my footing right here.
Right.
And so I feel like I'm not supposed to be here. But if a person like Ed Milet and some of these others who are such great thought provokers, they can feel that way, or Jordan Peterson of the type,
right?
If they can feel that way, I feel pretty good feeling I may be in the right place.
Right.
I think that switching that perspective.
Have you always been the confident human that's seen on TV now?
Well, I think the TV side and the lens is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I can go from having the worst day, turn that thing on, and no one saw what happened before and what happened after. They only see what the lens will show them.
Okay.
And I try to be authentic about that.
Do you ever use the lens to tell people what happened when it was off?
Not nearly as much as I should.
Okay. Because I think that's powerful.
It should be something that I should do more. The documenting, the storytelling, and I think that comes from what you just said. The feeling like, one, no one cares about the story, and then two, I think there's that bravado in me that I look at and I go,
wait, what do you mean nobody cares about the story?
No one cares about the story. Like, who is my story? Like, who am I to think that my story matters to them?
Saying that you don't care about
I don't
story,
think my
because
story
everybody
matters.
else does.
Yeah, and I think like it's kind of like you feel like a little fool of yourself.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because as I say that out loud, I battle with contractors against that because they'll tell me my story doesn't matter. We're like, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Your story does matter. And one thing I've been thinking about a lot, Eric, maybe this is a good place to say it. I run into a lot of contractors who are from the middle class. They grew up in a decent house.
Yep.
Good life. Yeah, they had some trouble, but they know their life was decent. I sometimes have been thinking that that's the worst place you can be. is growing a middle class. You're not poor enough to want more. You're not rich enough to know how money works and to have the connections and to have a lifestyle and expectation for yourself. Some guys need to understand that their story is that they are from the middle class and that they do want more and they're not lukewarm. And I think a lot more men fail to jump out of the middle class lifestyle than those who are poor, than those who are rich. Because they're so lukewarm the entire time, or they're okay making 1.5 million in their business, and they don't want to strive and get that footing that's unstable, get that imposter syndrome. They just want to stay under the radar.
They want to be comfortable.
They want to be comfortable. And I think that if there's someone out there and that you feel that way, like I don't have a story worth telling, that sometimes is the story.
It's how you tell the story.
Oh, that's a great point.
Right? It's how you tell the story. And it's funny you brought that up, because I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about a certain market that we were both dealing with, and the people in that market, as far as like sales reps and things like that in recruiting. And the other gentleman was saying, it's so shocking to see this market. There's so much untapped potential, but everybody's so used to making $80,000 a year, and they're like, my bills get paid, right? And they're so flatlined, right? I think that everybody needs to have, and I wish this wasn't the case, everybody needs to have something, good or bad, happen to them to trigger them to make the motion that you're talking about.
Yes.
Right? Somebody's got to have a whip on the horse to fucking hit it once and wake them up.
Yes.
Right? How do we get your eyes open? It's either got to be something amazing happens and they go, holy shit, I could do that, and their eyes are opened, or they're they're living under a bridge and they're like, oh my God, I have to do something.
Yeah.
Right? And how do we make that happen unorganically for people, right? Because it happening organically sometimes is not a lot of fun. Because it's generally the ones that have the negative thing happen to them that we think in the moment is negative, but in reality it's the best thing that ever happened to you because it gave you the opportunity to start forward motion.
Yeah, so the only thing I would add to that is if people are looking for how do I avoid getting to that point where it's rock bottom,
right?
I can tell you how you do get there. And that's when you don't keep the promises that you make to yourself. I've been on this with my team, been on myself personally, is that you get there by saying, I'm going to do this. You know what you should do. Everybody knows what they can do to grow their business. They know what they need to do. It's just, are you going to do it or not? And I think that a lot of us say, I'm going to make 10 calls today, or I'm going to send 10 messages or emails. Then work gets in the way. And it's like, let me make an excuse why not. I'm going to get in touch with my marketing company. We're going to put more dollars behind. Don't want to do that. You know what to do. You told yourself you're going to do it, and then you broke the promises to yourself over and over and over again until you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, I don't even like that person. I wouldn't trust that person, because you've just broken promises. And I think that's where people get broke in. They get under that bridge because constantly they just let themselves down, man.
I started talking about this in my most recent company meetings the last 6 months, and I end every meeting with, because I start the meeting with, what are you going to do this week? Right? I don't tell them what to do. I ask them, what are you going to do this week? And then at the end of it, I say, okay, you said you were going to do this.
Yep.
Not me. You did. You said that these are the things you have to do to achieve your goals for this week, which will in turn allow you to hit your goals for next month, for this year, blah, blah, blah. You're going to be consistent. And then the next week comes, and on Monday, we have the meeting, and I ask them this question. I just say, did you do what you said you were going to do? Because that is the foundation of, in my mind, being a man.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Did I do what I said I was going to do?
Absolutely.
My coach fucking chews my ass about this. Not chews my ass, but impresses on me. He's like, this happens in work, happens at home. If my daughter comes up to me and says, "Daddy, will you play with me?" And I'm on the fucking computer finishing up some shit, and I say, "Honey, give me 5 minutes." That better fucking mean 5 minutes.
Good point.
Right? It doesn't mean 20. If it needs to be 20, then tell her 20.
Yeah.
And then show the fuck up in 20. And if you're not done, well, that's your fucking problem because you lied and said it was going to take 20. Do what you said you were going to do. Shut it the fuck down then and get out and do it. If I said I was going to do something for you, if you asked me to do something, you can bet your ass I'll do it.
Yep.
Even if I don't want to.
Yes.
And if I didn't want to, I shouldn't have said I would.
So I understand that.
Right? So don't fucking say you're going to do something
Yes.
if you can't do it. And I think that is the absolute foundation. And I'm not trying to get the man-woman thing, but like all I can speak of is from a perspective of a man.
Yeah.
And if we're going to step the fuck up and provide and be who we were supposed to be when we were born, the whole foundation of that is doing exactly what you said you're going to do every fucking day.
I'm gonna ask you a question here.
Please.
It's way off topic.
Sorry.
Here, but it's got me thinking, and
That's why this is fun.
well, this is gonna come out of left field.
Okay.
You're married?
Yes.
This is a great question for you because it's something I've struggled with in my dating life, and I'm interested to hear what you got to say about this. Dated a girl. It did not end well. Let's say about a year ago. Okay. And after, found out some information, and I really was beat up by her decisions. I wanted to blame her for cheating and stuff like that.
Yep.
I took a step back, man, and I looked at it, and my friends were like, "I can't believe you looked at it this way." And I thought to myself, in some ways, it was my fault. Let me explain.
Yep.
Because people are like, "Oh, she cheated and stuff." No. I became that guy who, when I had a bad day, I'd call her up and had a bad day. I'd complain, bitch and moan. And then I'd want to feel like when I got home, I wanted you to feel like I'm the man. I'm daddy. I'm that guy, right? Meanwhile, you just had to listen to me bitch and moan about my day, about the problems that I have, all the things going on in my life that I guess I've thrown onto your plate now. Meanwhile, I'm not listening to anything you got. My question for you is this, man. I see a lot of roofing contractors. It's up and down, right? Contractors in general. I think there'd be some value in learning. How do you balance, like, being the man, but then also, like, man, sometimes I got ups and I got downs, and I always want to feel like I'm the man over here, but at the same time, I'd love to have someone I can turn to and I can talk to, and I feel like I'm in this middle ground where, shit, I'm just going to handle all my problems myself and keep everything inside. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I struggle with that a lot. And over the last couple of years, it's funny because I've done a lot of work on myself on this exact topic. Because I can't bring and shouldn't bring everything to her.
I made this mistake. I agree with you.
Right.
I did.
And there's some times that I will, mainly because if it's a financial thing, she'll be directly affected by it, so she does need to know.
Do you catch yourself in the moment and be like, I'm saying a lot, like I know I'm saying a lot more than I normally would? This is something
more because I have to force myself to say anything.
Okay.
Now it's a little different, but I struggle with it because it also put me in a space where I felt very, very alone. Right? And people don't talk about men having feelings and feeling alone a lot, and especially leaders that are running organizations and running families and you know what I mean? Like, we have all these things that we're responsible for. Literally, just the last podcast I did, we talked about, like, I don't have the luxury of sitting in the corner and fucking crying.
Yep.
Right? I had somebody, and sorry for everybody, I know I'm repeating myself because I said this in the other episode, but like, I had somebody come up to me the other day and ask me how I was doing. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how are you doing? And I'm like, are you genuinely asking me that? I'm like, about what? And they're like, no, like, how are you, man? And I was like, no one asked me that. It's my job to ask everybody else that.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody asked me how I'm doing, and you know why? Because it doesn't fucking matter. It does matter, right? But in that moment, it doesn't fucking matter because my problems are irrelevant because I've got a horde of people that I'm responsible for, and I need to block out the noise and I need to block out the chaos so that I can execute, so that all those people don't lose what they have because it's fucking sitting on me. So we have to find other men to be able to have those conversations with that are at our level and have been through the shit that we've been through. Whether that's paying a coach or paying a mentor or being in a group, right? Because I believe in coaching and therapy and things like that, and here's why. I believe that those should be transactional relationships. We should all have a person that isn't a transactional relationship, right? But I believe in transactional relationships because they are obligated to be there when you need them. Right? I'm exchanging funds for your time.
Yes.
Right? Doesn't mean we can't form a relationship still that's genuine, and I know that you actually do care about what I'm going through, but if I'm paying you, you have to be there when I need you. Because then I can take all that shit that happened during the day and I can go ask for help and I can go ask for advice without worry of being judged and without worry of affecting the other people. I can't tell my employees that I had to go borrow $150,000 to make payroll that month.
Yep.
Right? I can't tell my wife about, or I can, but like, I don't need to tell my wife about how I got screamed at by these three people and I really want to fire this person, because if I do, she'd be like, well, fucking fire them then, because that's my wife, right?
Yep.
And I'm like, and then I have to flip and go, no, honey, like, I'm just being emotional, like, it's all going to be fine tomorrow, I just needed a vet. But then she has to own all that bullshit.
Right.
So that doesn't need to be hers, right? But it does need to be somebody else's as well with you.
Yep.
And I think that there is power in that, but we as men have to figure that out.
See, what I'm taking away from that is, I already know this and I agree with you, and this is what I'm learning. Why am I dumping this on my significant other? Do I need help with it truly? Or am I doing it just because I want to communicate? Because I think that's the right thing to do.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and I do. I think that's what I was doing it for. You're not going to help me with my problem. But what it is that I felt like, and I think this is a mistake that men make, is like, okay, well, she'd always asking me to communicate, so I'm going to communicate about work by just sharing my problems because it was a shit day. And here you go. You want to know what I dealt with today? Boom, 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 boom.
I can one up your shit.
Yeah, let me just. But then I can solve my own problems. They're not going to help me. But then it's tough to go, let me now be the provider in this relationship and look at myself and you look at me as the provider in this relationship.
But you feel like you're sharing.
Right. It feels good in the moment. It feels really good to get that off my chest and to go, and she's communicating with me. We're nodding the head and we're like, yeah, that sucks.
Yeah.
It feels good in the moment, but 2 weeks of that, 3 weeks of that, and the woman you're with, I don't care who it is, eventually gets tired of going, what happened today?
Yeah. How about you just figure it out?
Yeah. Can you be the man in this relationship again?
Right.
Instead of me?
Yeah. And again, I think that we should give the disclaimer too, though, that like there's such a fine line.
Very.
Because it doesn't mean that we don't share with our significant others. I think it's that you have to take the time to look inward at yourself before you share, to say, is this a good thing to share? Or what is it going to cause down the road? Right? I mean,
I asked the question of why. Why am I sharing this?
Right.
What is the goal?
Right.
Do I genuinely need help now?
Yep.
Like, hey, listen, I'm looking for some advice on what way to go.
And is she the person to even give it?
Yeah. Right.
More than likely not.
Right. There might be an area of your life she is.
Right. Exactly.
And there's probably an area of her life that you're good to give the advice.
Right.
Probably not on most of it.
If my friends are gossiping about something, I might go to her for advice.
That's good. And it'd probably be good gossip.
Yeah. Because she knows all about gossip.
Yeah.
And she could probably advise me on gossip.
There you go.
I'm probably not going to go to her to have a conversation about, talk to this private equity group the other day and blah, blah, blah. You know, like, not that I won't give that information out, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm not trying to hide anything, and I don't think you want to hide anything. It's just a matter of understanding what should be and what shouldn't be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a really great question.
Yeah, and I just think a lot of men struggle with that, especially in this industry, because the highs are high and the lows are low. And when it gets low, it's to be careful not to overshare with the spouse so that you can continue to have a place so you can go home and you can feel like I'm still the man.
Yeah.
I think men need that place where they can still go and they can be their refuge and be their cave and they can still feel like they're number one. I don't want people to lose that.
I love that. One of the other things that I wanted to ask you about that we kind of chit-chatted about was you made a comment about discovering the next version of yourself without forgetting who you were.
Oh, yeah.
I fucking loved that.
Yeah.
I loved that, and I want to dig into what that means to you.
Yeah. I think the only way you discover the next person is by actually remembering the side of you that you don't like. So a lot of people want to look at, where do you want to be in life? Well, I want to be this, I'm going to vision this and all that stuff. I look at that and I think, let me look at this last person that I was, all right? And, what am I struggling with right now? And I think that is where you find out where the next version of you is. Because it's probably going to be, let me give this an example.
Yeah.
When you walk into the gym and people go, well, what am I going to do in the gym today? You should probably do the thing that you don't want to do. Because there's a reason you don't want to do it. It's because...
or you should never fucking show up to the gym not knowing what you're going to fucking do.
That's a good way to put it. So I look at it and I think it's probably because it's the least proficient thing for you. And so what I want people to do is to look out, okay, don't forget what you're least proficient in, because that's where the growth is. That's how you discover the next version of who you are. And so if you're least proficient in the follow-through that we talked about earlier, but you're really good in the gift of gab, okay, we know the area that you need to improve on in order to become better.
Right.
And I don't want people to forget that version of them, because if you do and you push it to the side, you'll never face it. And that's where the real growth is. It's in that pain of facing what you're not very good at.
There's another flip side of that in business, right? Where I'll just play devil's advocate.
Sure.
Where I believe that, what you just said, and I also believe in identify your weakness, identify your strength, double down on your strength, and delegate your weakness.
Yes, well, it's a very, very good point. And I think that there's some truth to that if I think about it.
Both things are true.
Yeah, but I think there's some definite truth to that.
They can both be true.
Yeah.
But I think that both should be talked about.
And along your line, I think maybe asking that question of yourself, what could you be the best in the world at? What if you have the natural skill and ability? What could you be the best in the world at if you worked at it? Because there's people that are skilled and stuff, but man, they go out there and they practice their craft.
Yeah.
But everybody has some natural ability that they're better at than somebody else.
Yeah.
Is it your ability to speak, listen, ask questions, analyze a problem, work through math, read? There could be a skill and the ability to work through that and to say, yeah, I am a gifted listener. Okay, how are you going to monetize that and use it to your best ability?
Right.
I think there's some real, depth to somebody that can look at themselves and go, I'm really good at this, but I need to practice it. Yeah. I think that most people look at something and they go, I'm really good at this. Fuck, I'm good.
Right.
Well, if you want to be the best, you're going to have to practice at it.
The example that I use is like, I'm a pretty good golfer. I'm a single digit handicap. I'm a good golfer. I cannot play soccer. It's weak. Okay? That is a weakness, let's call it, right? It would take me so much energy and time to become a good soccer player, right? And the payoff would not be worth it because I would still never reach to a level because it's just not my thing to play soccer, right? But I'm already really good at golf.
Yes.
And if I then went and took that same amount or less than energy that I would have had to go put into learning how to play soccer better into doubling down on how good I am as a golfer now, I could probably go from a 7 to a 1 handicap in a much shorter amount of time that I could go from a G player on a soccer team to a C.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It is.
And so that's part of the mindset that I try to instill in my people is, yes, we need to work on your weaknesses because that's going to raise you up. But let's also make sure that we are identifying what you're really fucking good at and then figuring out how we delegate the things that you aren't so that you can absolutely excel in this and like what you're doing, because I'd be miserable playing fucking soccer.
That's the key, I think, right there that a lot of people miss. What you're normally really good at, you actually normally enjoy.
Correct.
You know, because you like doing it because you're good at it, and you feel like it's natural for you.
Yep.
And yet people will steer away from what they're naturally very good at, and they'll try to force it into something else of what they think they should, or instead of going, you know what, man, I am just a really good listener. I'm a really good person at asking questions. I'm a really good guy at making furniture. Okay, let's go all in on that.
Right.
I think there's some real truth to what you're saying right there. And I think for me, when I talk about, you know, remembering that past version of yourself, I'm a guy who works from fear of loss. And when I think back to that past person that I was, I look at that person and I go, I don't like that individual. I wouldn't want to be in a relationship, but I wouldn't want to be friends with that guy. And so by remembering who that guy is, I think I work from a place I never want to go back there. And I don't want to, and so by remembering, I think I keep moving forward. Because I always feel like I'm one step away from going back to that individual.
I get that, right? Like that's a big AA thing, right? That's a big AA thing is forgetting the past but never shutting the door on it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that, again, everything that we're talking about today is like, there's a very fine line, right? And it can be a slippery slope. Because the analogy that everybody uses and my coach shoved down my fucking throat is when I'm driving, am I looking through the windshield or am I looking through the rear view mirror too much?
Yep.
Right? Which one am I paying attention to? And he asked me what motivated me, and I literally said I said fear of loss.
Me, yeah.
Right? He chewed my ass for 2 fucking hours about fear of loss being my motivator and not my excitement for the future.
Interesting. Wow.
Right? Because he was like, why are you living in the fear of the loss when that's already gone? When you could reframe your lens to being excited about what you're going to gain because of what you're doing. And how much more motivated are you going to be to continue down that path? Instead of running away from something, running towards something. And it took me a couple of days, because every time he does that shit to me, I want to motherfuck him in the moment every time, because I'm like, I really believed in this asshole. And then I got to think about it for a little bit, and I'm like, man, he was right. And I've completely shifted my focus on everything that I do. It has to be on what am I looking towards at the end, down the road, not what has happened in the past so I don't go back to it. Because that already happened. I can't change it. I'm not going to forget that it did and who I was, but it can't be a larger thought in my mind than what I'm focusing on down the road.
I know we're probably running short on time, but I want to say this to you because I think that, again, these things just kind of pop into my head along that same line, because I think that somebody out there will resonate with them. One of the things I've been telling myself a lot lately, Eric, is it's okay to stop a bad decision. So, you know, we talk about AA or something. You take one drink. You've made a bad decision by doing that. It's okay not to have the second. I think sometimes we go down a path in life where we know we're making a bad decision, not in line with who we are right now and in line with who we used to be. And we have to go down, we're like, well, already did that line.
Yeah, I guess
might as well do the whole effing bag now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's okay to stop doing what you're doing right now. It's okay to stop the affair. It's okay to stop stealing. It's okay to stop screwing over your business, even though you've been doing it for a long time. It's okay to stop it now and to say, I screwed up, but I'm stopping.
Yeah.
It's okay to get up and walk away from the table. And I think that when we're talking about that version of ourselves, it's okay not to be that person again.
Yeah.
You can just stop what you're doing right
Yeah.
now. Stop that bad decision.
It's the old analogy. When was the best time to plant a tree? 50 years ago.
Yeah, sure.
What's the second best time to plant a tree?
Now.
Right fucking now.
Yes. Yes.
We've only got so much time, right? We've only got so much time, and I've decided that I want to spend the rest of my time focusing on the present and what the present can change for me in the future. My decisions that I make today. I can't forget my past, because without it, I wouldn't be who I am today. Without all of the bad decisions that I made in my past, I wouldn't have the experiences that I have today to be able to be the human that I am today. So I'm grateful for everything that happened to me. I'm a grateful alcoholic. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic, because if none of that occurred, none of this would have occurred either. I can't help people if I haven't been through something, right?
Yeah.
You can't help somebody do something if you haven't done it yourself. So now we get to help people that are coming up and went through some of the same shit. And the most rewarding thing in life is being able to do that. I 1000% believe that, I say this all the fucking time, and it's probably getting redundant. We were not born, we were not brought onto this earth by whatever God you believe in to be a piece of shit. We were not put on this earth to make our mothers cry and stay up at night not knowing if we were coming home. We were put on this earth to do good things for us, for the people around us, and to help those coming up behind us that need help. That's why we're here. And then in the middle of that, we try and make a bunch of fucking money so that we can help more people. That's the fucking purpose. But we can't do any of that because we live in a capitalistic society without fucking capital. So we need to make as much fucking capital as we can so that we can fulfill the vision of what it is that we believe in. And if your only vision is collecting things, you're a fucking twat, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Your vision should be collect as much capital as you can so that you can pour it back in to things that you give a shit about to be able to raise people up. I don't mean walking down the street handing money to homeless people, right? Walk down the street and offer a homeless person a job. I think that is fantastic. But figuring out how we lift each other up because of the things that we've been able to accomplish because of the shit that we went through in our past.
Isn't it interesting that I was thinking about this the other day, and this is kind of weird to say, but I'll say it because I worked through it, that when we were 5 years old, we thought that we could be a superhero. You could be Batman or Superman or Spider-Man.
Right.
And that every man at some point probably in their life, or woman, it doesn't matter, Wonder Woman, you can be any of this stuff. You went from thinking that you could be a superhero to that you can't make $100,000 a year. So what happened in between right there? You weren't born with any doubt. You used to think you could fly and jump off a building. Between there and there, somebody put enough doubt in your mind about who you are and what
Everybody
you can
around
accomplish.
you.
And just pushed you down and pushed you down and pushed you down. You weren't born with that, though. You weren't.
You were born thinking you could do anything in the world. Yeah.
And somebody took that away from you, not
Mediocre
you.
people that were around you, right?
Yeah.
That's why we talk so much about surrounding ourselves with humans
Heck yeah.
that are doing certain things, because if you're sitting in a room with 5 drug addicts, you're going to be the 6th. And if you're sitting in a room with 5 billionaires, you're going to be the 6th, right?
Yeah.
And we all know that, and we all say it. We all read the same fucking books, right?
Yeah.
But there couldn't be a more truer statement than that, because as you grow up, the people that end up succeeding are the people that are watching their parents succeed.
Yeah.
Their parents that are watching Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? He watched his rich dad perform and succeed and went, wait, that's what I want to be. I don't want to be that. But if you're surrounded as a kid, you don't get to choose your fucking environment.
Yeah.
Right? We have to wait until we're 19 years old to actually choose our environment, whether it's college or a job or whatever it is, right? But you don't get to choose your environment as a kid, so you're being molded by either people that are uber successful and can show you how to do that, and like what money means and what you can do with money and what you can do by helping people, or you can be surrounded by people who are like, well, I gotta go to work again today, son.
Yep.
Fucking hate my life, I hate your mom, and I want to fucking jump off a bridge.
Or, how was work today, Dad? Another day,
Right.
day. Yeah.
And so you just think that that's what life is.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about who you surround yourself with. It's all about being around people that want to help and level up as a human. And then once you get past that point, now it's your fucking turn.
Yep.
Start giving back. So, hey, at the end of these episodes, what we do is we always give the floor back to the guest for the last couple of minutes, because there's always something that maybe I forgot about or you had a burning desire in the back of your head. So I want to make sure that the audience gets whatever that burning desire might have been that I missed, or just however you want to wrap up what we talked about.
Yeah, well, first of all, man, I want to wrap up by saying what you've been able to accomplish in a very short amount of time with this brand that you have is impressive. And I think what your audience doesn't know about you is I had the opportunity, as I talked about with you off camera, to sit down with some of your team in Texas. I was there for a top rep event. We sat at the same table. Man, they really enjoy you. They like you as a man, as a leader. And I think that's important to mention here, because when people see a show like this, so what is he doing behind the scenes? And your people there, they want to be around you.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks volumes to who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think that your audience deserves to know that.
Appreciate it.
You've done a lot of great things here. I've enjoyed getting to know you, because you have this personality that you walk into any place and people gravitate towards you, and it's really cool to see. But I think that that's probably the most important thing I could get across, that people know that the person that's sitting right here is the same person that I think a lot of other people get to see off camera. That's a good thing, man.
I strive to do.
Well, you're doing it.
At the end of the day, I don't ever want anybody to think or say or have the ability to say, that ain't fucking him.
No, I think you're doing it.
That's a show.
You're doing a great job.
Right, so you probably already knew it, but there isn't a better compliment that somebody could give me. So thank you very much, Patrick.
There we go.
Thank you for being here. Everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, I don't have fucking sponsors. So Zyn, for all your nicotine needs. Cinnamon's my favorite. But since they're never going to fucking sponsor me, cost of admission, share this shit. If you found anything valuable in this episode, and if you didn't, there's something fucking wrong with you. So please, share this shit, share it with your friends, tell people about it so that they can get some of the value as well. And remember, everybody, be authentic or get the fuck out.
Be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah. Swipe.